Welcome to the Reddit stories. r/Askreddit. What city will you never visit, based on its reputation? Port-au-Prince, Haiti. I work with so many refugee families who fled from there, and the stories are chilling. I went there in 2011 as a nursing student to help out at one of the hospitals. Great/friendly people, but the state of pretty much everything was absolutely shocking. Everything was in disrepair. Tons of buildings were still complete rubble from the earthquake in 2010. Raw sewage appeared to be flowing out onto some of the streets. No traffic lights worked. Potholes were so large they'd swallow your entire vehicle, etc. Our fun time consisted of going to the UN base. There were also frequent power outages throughout the day. The entire hospital was surrounded by concrete walls that were probably 7 to 8 feet high, followed by barbed wire that was another 5 feet high and was manned by men with guns. We were not allowed to go out into the streets, ever. Some of the cases coming through there were absolutely heartbreaking. A baby died after another hospital had given it so much cough/cold meds it stopped breathing. We were also told that some of the other local hospitals did not have staff at night time and patients were left alone by themselves. I learned a lot and met some fantastic people though. It made me realize how good we have it in Canada. There's a town way north of Perth where I live in Western Australia called Wittenoom that I would refuse to step foot anywhere near purely because of the history of it and the asbestos exposure risks. I have no idea how there are still people living there, let alone the hundreds of tourists that go through there on their travels in the north. Caracas, Venezuela. I've heard that if you hear motorcycles, it's either gangs or cops. Either way, you're getting robbed or kidnapped. I spent 2 weeks in Caracas in 2006 or 2007 and had a wonderful time. We had locals with us and were in safe areas though. Except I liked this local girl and followed her into downtown where she took me to some sketchy park and ran off to buy drugs. I later learned I ended up basically helping a local crack dealer practice his English. He approached me and started asking me questions and trying to speak English. He had a visible gun in his waistband and was stopping to sell people crack every 5 minutes, but was otherwise super friendly. I think him taking a shine to me was what kept me safe as an obvious American all alone. Not sure though. Maybe it was just a better time to be there as an American. Gallup, New Mexico. According to truck drivers. Story time. I live in Albuquerque and I played rugby in high school. We went to Gallup to play exactly one time. We had to walk the field to pick out glass and needles out of the dirt. It was awful. Juarez, Mexico. Bad news down there. Had a co-worker go down there with his wife to be in order to deal with some immigration issues. He got cornered by a bad group of guys. They took his new truck, then held him for ransom 5 months before finally letting him go. This sucks. BC Juarez didn't used to be so bad. My grandparents raced horses in El Paso in the mid-90s, so we would spend a month there with them in the summer. I could walk across the bridge by myself and go to the old market in Juarez as a teenager and not have any issues. Mexican culture is great and the cartels have ruined it on the border. As a resident of NC, never going to Fayetteville. Fayetteville is what happens outside every mill base everywhere. Pawn shops, strip clubs, used car dealers, tattoo shops, etc. stacked on every inch of road near base. Outside that, cheap houses, because we used to pay soldier shit. Eventually it accidentally turns into a city. Cairo. Apparently one of the worst places in the world to go if you're a tourist. At least, if people on Reddit I've seen complaining are to be believed. I worked somewhat near Egypt and had a number of co-workers. We are all males and military contractors who visited there thinking it was just a stigma about the harassing. Every single one of them said they would never go back, and a number mentioned how you would have to be insane to visit as a woman. Gary, Indiana. Honestly, because of the reputation I want to see Gary sometime, not to stay, but to drive through. There's just something about urban decay that I love to look at. Abandoned office buildings, old rusted blast furnaces, empty lots in the middle of downtown. It's all morbidly beautiful to me. Dubai. Not a fan of 120 degrees with nearly 100% humidity. Dubai is also weirdly cosmopolitan. They have signs about dressing modestly in public places, but you'll see non-Emirati women in short shorts and tank tops. You'll see and hear calls to prayers, but then also see completely covered women shopping at MAC for eyeliner. It's just a weird mix of old and new with a backdrop of obscene wealth that was created in a relatively short time. Any remaining sundown towns? I was looking up sundown towns in my state and came across one town close by. It seems like the sundown status died out, but the story they had was too funny. Brookfield, Illinois. During the 1960s, there was a big uproar when a family sold a house to a black family. It turned out, however, that there already was a black family in the town, and at a meeting called to protest this new family, a white man stood up and said his neighbor already was black. The meeting broke up in confusion. Ciudad Juarez. I grew up there. Violent crime is mostly among people who are into drug traffic, especially in the last few years. The issue with the city is frankly, it doesn't have much to do. A couple of museums, a beautiful theater and a big park, half of which is closed, are hardly things people actually flock to see. You can pretty much get that anywhere in the world, and B, the infrastructure is terrible, as it's extremely car-centric and uncared for. In other words, you are more likely to be run down by a car in the terribly designed Torres Avenue than you are of being kidnapped, and the uncared for buildings are not a thrilling sight to behold. IDK, what's wrong with it? But apparently Gary, Indiana. Imagine a shitty rundown street. The roads aren't repaired, most shops are shuttered. There are car husks just left in parking spaces, windows are broken and replaced with boards. The people you see look like a combination of homeless and junkie, and like they want to both rape and eat you. It's like that, but the whole town. All of this first world country's reasoning none of us third world folks can even relate to. First world folks, nah bro, stay the yuck away from Gary, Indiana. Bunch of crackheads do they just feel zeri. Third world dudes, yeah, you wanna stay the yuck away from Mexicali. I once saw a dude eating a human. I don't even go near Sede de Deuce, man. I once saw a 7-year-old prostitute herself in Cali, man. All these are real cases. Guadalajara, Mexico. I work for a large software dev company that has a delivery center in Guadalajara. We've had to go as far as employing private security services to establish a safe zone for employees due to kidnapping attempts and general random violent incidents. The issues that have led me to not wanting to go to Guadalajara can definitely be mitigated to some degree by tourists and travelers with street smarts, good planning, and good awareness of their surroundings. That being said, the business environment struggles to do this somewhat. In international orgs that have hundreds of offices and multiple large delivery centers all over the world, the demand for 24/7 work from office availability to combat time zone differences dictates how employees have to interact with their environment. This increases potential threat surfaces in a significant way. We also are unfortunately actively targeted by criminal organizations, which creates challenges more unique than just petty crime when you have criminal entities with so much power. Thank you.